So I'm just going to give a short kind of overview of persuasive speaking. Persuasion is when you are trying to advocate something, you are either advocating a policy, a value, or a fact. And the difference between those speeches is that a speech of policy is one that says, what should we do? Usually a speech of policy might have the word should in it. Or it could be like down here, we see factory farms should be banned, right? So when you're advocating the government do something or people do something or how someone acts, that's a policy. That's a speech of policy. Another type of persuasive speech is a speech of value. And that is something that advocates something is right or wrong. So here we are with fertilizers are overused, right? So this is a value, whether something is right or wrong, and if it's a correct action. Then finally, we have speeches of fact, which are about whether a concept is true or false. So for example, aliens exist, or God is all powerful, right? So these are statements that existed, like if you wanted to do a conspiracy speech, right? That would be a speech of fact. For example, JFK was killed by the CIA, right? If you wanted to say things that happened, like, Tupac is still alive and living in Jamaica, right? Those are the speeches that would be speeches of fact. So when you are looking into speeches, I recommend that you go to the Moodle page and if you're still struggling, you can click on this link that we're looking at right now, sample topics for persuasive speeches. And I would recommend reading this little paragraph right here because it can give you some pointers and suggestions. Confusion is more likely to arise when a persuasive speech presents both sides of an issue where facts are in dispute. Some speeches like that can seem informative. So you would like to make sure you're making a stand. At the end of a persuasive speech, people need to know which side you are on. And sometimes you can see that some of these speech topics here have been labeled as to whether they're fact, value, or policy. If it has two, that means that it's actually a quasi-value speech, which means, or quasi-policy speech, which means it's both. Factory farms should be banned. Implicit within that policy is the value that factory farming is wrong, right? So it isn't all that important whether or not it's a pure fact, pure value, or pure policy, but that it is at least one of those three. Now, why is that important? Because each one of those types of speeches does something a little bit different. A speech of value needs to establish the criteria for that value word, right? So when something is right or wrong, or what does it mean to be overused, right? You have to define that term when you are giving a speech of value. Congress should prohibit the inclusion of animal byproduct in animal feed. What does the word prohibit mean, right? And why is that important to know? So if you're giving a speech of value for your persuasive speech, please make sure you establish the criteria for what it means and what the word actually means. How do you define that? If you're giving a speech of policy, you want to be clear about exactly who you're talking about as the agent of that policy. So in this speech, genetically modified crops, the federal government is the one that you are advocating, right? So the federal government should ban genetically modified crops. And then at that point, you want to establish what the federal government should do, right? So in a policy speech, you want to advocate a policy, but then you need to say who's doing it and how they should do it. And then you want to establish why that works. So here are the benefits. You want to talk about the benefits of that policy that you're advocating. So a policy speech could be a person, like, you should stop using plastic. That's a policy speech. But then what does it mean to stop using plastic, right? And how? Here's how, and here's why this is beneficial. So the third type then would be fact. In the fact speech, it's really important that you have good credibility and that you do your research. So the fact speech needs to really be careful that you have clear and reliable facts, and really include those facts that actually address the statement that you're trying to prove. So agricultural runoff that contains antibiotics is increasing, right? So this means that you're going to want to find evidence that actually supports that fact. There are a lot of great conspiracy speeches out there to be done for persuasion, right? Like there's a crazy one out there that says that like all the birds in the world are actually dead, and they're all been replaced by animatronics. Like,
They're working for the bourgeoisie.
yeah. So that would be one you'd want to disprove, right? So conspiracy speech isn't necessarily one you want to prove, but it could be one that you want to disprove. But then you need to find evidence, good evidence that argues against it, or shows that that's ridiculous, like the Intellimani has taken over the world, or some people say that, right? Yeah. So if you want to do a conspiracy speech, remember that that is a speech of fact, and that means you need to make sure you have clear and strong evidence in your favor. Okay, so those are the three types of persuasive speeches: fact, value, and policy. And so if you have any questions about which one yours is, you can always ask me. It is less important that you know exactly which one it is. It's just that the three types give you a guideline for what you need to do in that speech.